Welcome to Who Wrote That Up For You, a daily podcast that shines a light on the American justice system and its role in empowering the powerful to take from you. The justice system is the only branch of your government where an individual, rather than the collective, can make the system act for you. It puts power in the individual's hands, but it's broken and being used against you at a time when you need it most.
And welcome to Who Wrote That Up For You. I am Sonia Ebron, co-founder at Courtroom 5.
And I am Deborah Sloan, the other co-founder at Courtroom 5.
Fantastic show lined up for you today. In a few moments, we will speak with Alyssa S. Wesley. She's the owner of Freelance Paralegal Services, offering services nationwide, and we'll be really interested to hear about some of the work she does. Before we get there, though, Deborah, what is on your mind today?
From the Judges Gone Wild Department, the National Centers for State Courts puts out a judicial discipline decision summary, and it reported back in March a Arizona judge that that posted on his personal Facebook page a document, the motion for extension of time written by a pro se litigant. And apparently the goal was to basically ridicule the pro se litigant. He did kind of semi-redacted the name, but he left the court information there, and he left the court case information there, and he allowed people to comment on the document. And so he was reprimanded reprimanded by the Arizona Commission on Judicial Conduct for doing that, because it's clearly wrong. I'm just I should say I'm stunned, but I'm really not. It's really sad that kind of thing, only because I've gone searching for judges gone wild, and so I'm not that surprised. But it's really disappointing when that kind of thing happens, because it's just it goes way beyond judicial bias. It's just total misconduct.
That is a mess, and I mean, we have to reference some of our own personal experience. We've both seen judges gone wild up front and close and personal, so it's not a surprise this day and age. But you got to ask. I mean, how do you even get out of law school not knowing that's inappropriate, much less to be on the bench ruling on somebody's case? I mean, that's just ridiculous. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
And to have the National Center for State Courts regularly put out a summary of judicial discipline, I
Right,
mean,
right.
that says
Yeah,
a lot.
it does. It does. I'm sure they have plenty to write about. They have to probably be picky not to do that every day, but that is a mess. Well, way it goes. At Courtroom 5, we believe the courts belong to the people, in particular to the people who use them. And we, the people, are coming to claim our courts. So if you are in court without a lawyer, or if you need to sue someone and can't find a lawyer to represent you, get yourself over to courtroom5.com. Try a limited version of our services for free, and we hope to provide some relief for you there. And with that, it is my pleasure to welcome onto the show Alyssa S. Wesley at Freelance Paralegal Services. Alyssa, thank you so much for joining us on Who Wrote That Up For You.
Hi, thank you all for having me today.
Fantastic. I'm really excited to hear about what you do and the services you offer. But before we get there, tell us about you and your background.
Okay, so as you mentioned, I am Alyssa Wesley. I am the owner of Freelance Paralegal Services. Freelance Paralegal Services started about approximately 10 years ago, and at that time, I was actively working as a paralegal. Since then, I have become an attorney, and my reason for doing so is because I was basically, doing all of the work that the attorneys do. So when people ask me, like, oh, what's a paralegal? I always give them this example, I say a paralegal is to an attorney what a nurse is to a doctor. So the nurse has to know pretty much everything the doctor knows. The doctor just kind of comes in, checks over the nurse's work, signs off on it, and they get the bigger check. So I was tired of getting a smaller check. I went to law school, and here we are today. In doing so, um, I've kept freelance paralegal services around, and I still offer those paralegal services to pro se litigants and some firms and some small practice attorneys for a reduced cost. So, as you all know, legal fees and expenses can get pretty pricey. So instead of you going to pay $300 and $400 an hour, you'll pay a smaller fee to have your legal documentation professionally drafted by someone who is experienced in that particular area of law for a reduced price. And it not only gives you a look of professionalism, it also gives you more confidence when you go before the court on
That's
your own.
right. That's fantastic. Thank you for that explanation. And so, congrats, first of all, from for recognizing the inequity in the pay there. You, as you
Hmm.
mentioned, paralegals do the bulk of the work for law firms,
Absolutely.
and so now you're able to provide that yourself. And so, is your organization a law firm, or are you still providing paralegal services, or how exactly does this work for pro se litigants that you serve?
So it is not a law firm. It's more of an agency, a company, if you will. I or myself or anyone who will contract and work for me don't necessarily represent the litigants in court. What we do provide is legal documentation preparation services or legal research services. So we will assist you with preparing your case and yourself for court, but we actually will not physically appear before the court on your behalf.
Understood. Fantastic. And so there's this area between a paralegal and like a practicing attorney that you would go to get representation that I think you operate in. Can you explain a little bit about that space?
Right. So, working under the paralegal services, again, we would not represent the litigant in court. So, we're not necessarily advising you or advising you on how to go about being successful in your case. What we're doing is providing you with the tools. So, as you know, or maybe you don't know, when a litigant goes before the court as a pro se litigant, the judge is there to issue decisions. The judge is not there to advise you on what to do, how to do it, or how to be successful in winning your case. And a lot of times that is detrimental for the pro se litigant because even though the judge knows the record, legally they cannot assist you. So what a service such as mine, Freelance Paralegal Services, would do, we would make sure that your documentation has the correct statutes in it, that your filing is done correctly. Sometimes people may file a complaint or a motion of some sort and may forget to put the notice in it, or they may forget to properly serve the opposing party. That's where we step in to help you. Okay, this is the notice that corresponds with this particular motion. It has to be filed in this format. It has to be served upon the opposing party in this way. And those are things that help you be successful. Without knowing that, your motion, complaint, pleading, whatever it is, will go before the court and it'll get pushed right back out. It'll be rejected.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, this is a fascinating space, I think, for us because generally paralegals could not do those sorts of things, or in limited circumstances, I guess. And folks are often forced to pay those hefty legal fees to a law firm to get that sort of assistance. And so I think this is really valuable for people to know about, and to be able to get these sorts of services. Are there particular types of cases that you work on and provide these services for, or is it broad?
It's broad. Family law is a very big sector for us. A lot of people need help filing motions to reduce child support or have custody agreements and things of that nature, divorce proceedings that they need assistance with. That's a big one. A lot of will, estate, and probate matters kind of come in second. One of the sections that are up and coming are small businesses. So people needing help filing for their LLC or corporation, getting those EIN numbers and things like that, or just really needing someone there to answer questions while they're working their way through the legal system, through the tax system, dealing with the IRS. Just someone there to kind of lean on for support when they need a question answered that Google can't help, because Google can't help you do everything. So those are areas that we focus on. I wouldn't say those are the only areas. The only area that I don't necessarily enjoy assisting people with is criminal law, because I do think that that's one area of law that you should um, retain an attorney to represent you in.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. When your liberty is at stake, those are some pretty high stakes. I understand that. Now, you
Absolutely.
are licensed in a particular state, but your services are available nationwide or in some other states outside of where you are licensed. Do you have to work through other folks in order to deliver services in those areas?
No, I don't have to work through anyone because I'm not representing anyone in court. This is a legal documentation or legal preparation, legal research service that we provide. Anyone could provide these services if they're knowledgeable on the topic. You don't have to be licensed in order to help someone properly format a Word document, right?
Right.
Or to assist them with the correct quotation of a legal statute. That doesn't require licensing. So that is the reason why it's available in all 50 states. But what we do make sure that we do is have someone who is more experienced in that particular state, that particular jurisdiction. That'll be the person that helps, whomever is needing help in that jurisdiction, just because they're more familiar with the ins and outs. A lot of people don't realize local rules change from city to city, town to town. State rules, your states can be right next to one another. Like I'm from Chicago, Illinois originally. Rules and regulations in Chicago are completely different from those in Indiana, and that's only a 20-minute drive away. So, you have to have somebody who specializes in that particular jurisdiction so you can be successful.
Fantastic. That is fantastic. And so, for a pro se litigant who is wanting some assistance, maybe can't afford, legal services or representation by a law firm, how would you advise them to, reach out to a service like yours? What kind of preparation do they need to have in order to work with you effectively?
First and foremost, they would have to have their case information, so case numbers and things of that nature, where we'd be able to look into the system to pull the facts that surround the matter and answer their questions accurately. That's most important. Secondly, they would have to have really their ducks in a row. And I say that to say they are really the ones who are performing the duties and the responsibilities as if they were the attorney. They are the ones who are going to go before the court and present their argument. So they have to be prepared for that. By being prepared, I mean they need to be knowledgeable on what's going on, knowledgeable on what sort of outcome they're looking to achieve, and knowledgeable about different ways to go about achieving that outcome. Where we come in, once they have kind of an ideology of how they want to proceed, where we would come in is help them execute their plan.
Alyssa, I guess
Yes, yes.
we lost Sonia for a minute there.
Uh-huh.
So talk. So
Uh-huh.
on a day to day, what do you do? Let's say a pro se litigant came in with some specific questions about their case. On a day to day, those kinds of things. What do you do?
Okay, so what they do is they'll go to the website, freelanceparalegalservices.net, and they would fill out kind of a small intake form, just giving a brief um, a brief explanation of what's going on with their case and what they're looking to achieve. Then they would have a consultation. So in the consultation, we'd have a further, more in-depth conversation about what's going on, what they're looking to achieve, what kind of barriers have stopped them from being successful in their case up until this point. And then we'll talk about the next steps moving forward. So how much are they looking to spend? What type of budget do they have? What exactly do they need help with? Some people have their legal research and everything that they need, but they are not really good with writing, typing things out, or have poor grammar, or they don't really know how to get their point across on paper. So they might just need legal documentation services, and we can offer that. Some people aren't familiar with how to navigate tools like Westlaw and Nexus Lexis and things like that. They might need some legal statutes and stuff to help their case out. We might help with that. So it just depends on what the person needs.
Okay, so
Fantastic.
are you going to take it from here now?
Nope, go for it.
Okay. Okay, so how difficult is it for you when a pro se litigant comes in and they're not sure what they need? Is it because typically, if you're working with a paralegal as a pro se litigant, you pretty much want to know where you are and what's going on, in the case. But sometimes people don't know that stuff. So how difficult
Mhm.
is it for you when they don't know, they- when they're like, I'm in trouble, help me. It's broader
Okay.
than
Okay.
specific.
So at one point in time, it proved to be very difficult because when Freelance Paralegal Services started, I was working and operating as a paralegal. As a paralegal, I am legally not allowed to give or provide legal advice to anyone who asks it. Now, like I said, I have gone to law school, finished law school, and so on and so forth. So if I wanted to, I could provide legal advice, but that's not what freelance paralegal services is. If you're looking for legal advice, you would have to contact a law firm that is able to provide that for you. Although I can provide that for you, I don't necessarily provide those type of services because that's not what freelance paralegal services is about. So what I can do during the consultation, I ask particular questions, identifying questions that gives me enough information to know exactly what it is they want. Because sometimes people know what they want, they just don't know how to get the words out, right? They don't know how to get the point across. Sometimes tongue tied, anything, nervous, might forget a couple of facts, So it's my job to ask those questions that trigger them to answer in a way that I need them to answer.
That's
Right.
fantastic. That is fantastic. And so, do you also provide services to law firms when they need them, or are you strictly serving pro se litigants?
No, absolutely. I do provide services for law firms and some attorneys. So sometimes you might get a case that is a little bit more strenuous than your particular firm can handle. You might not have enough staff, but it's a one time thing. You don't want to hire a lot of people um, paying all this money when the case is going to be off your desk in a couple of months. That's when they might reach out to a service, an agency such as Freelance Paralegal Services, and we would find legal assistants or paralegals, legal secretaries, whatever they're looking for to help fulfill that particular task.
Fantastic, fantastic. I mean, it's really great that there are services available that are not these high dollar, law firms.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, as you know, most
Hmm.
people can't afford to hire a lawyer, and so when they're handling these types of cases themselves, with services like yours, do you see them able to succeed more often? What are some of the challenges for people that using a service like yours are they're able to overcome?
I've actually seen a lot of people be successful in representing themselves. The ones who are successful have a knack for not just learning, but a knack for really researching and honing in on the outcome that they're looking to achieve. So I'm not talking about somebody who just wants to scroll Facebook and be kind of a Facebook attorney, that's not going to work. That's not going to help you be successful. Or even like we like to call them Google attorneys. You're not going to be successful in that. Google can only answer so many questions. If Google were the way to win your case, attorneys wouldn't spend $120,000 getting a degree to do this, right? So not those type of people, but the ones who are really, when they're reaching out to me, it's because they've done so much and they've hit a wall where they need more questions answered. So people who are really dedicated and devoted to learning the ins and outs of the legal system and trying to be successful. Those are the ones who end up victorious at
Fantastic.
the end.
Fantastic. Alyssa, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to share for our viewers your website, Freelance Paralegal Services, at freelanceparalegalservices.net. And folks can reach you presumably on the website there to chat with you about your services when they need it. Where else can
That is
people
correct.
find you? Where else can people find you online?
People can find me on LinkedIn. You can look up Freelance Paralegal Services or either my name, Alyssa S. Wesley, and I'd be responsive if you sent the message that way as well.
Fantastic. We'll make sure that's included in the show notes. Again, thank you so much for the work that you do and for sharing your knowledge here on Who Wrote That Up For You. We will have you back on again soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. I'd love to come back. You all have a great day.
You as
You
well.
too.
Thanks so
All
much.
right.
I'd love to come back. You all have a great day.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Wow, that's a
All right.
great.
Bye.
Okay.
I'm just so excited, to learn about these new areas. I mean, there's so much need for alternative services, right? Including some of the innovative ways that lawyers are providing their services these days. But this is certainly one example of that through traditional paralegal services without wading into some of the regulatory issues that tend to stymie some of what we want to do. So it's really
Yeah.
exciting to hear about a solution like that. Well, before we run out of time, Deborah, I want to hear who won the last quiz, or what the answer was to the last quiz, and what you have teed up for us next.
It was a fun question. A blank is a court order that compels a witness to testify at trial or at a deposition. The choices were summons, complaint, subpoena, and pleading. And of course, the answer is a subpoena is a court order that compels a witness to testify at trial or at a deposition. Today's quiz is true or false. Only a plaintiff can move for summary judgment. Is that statement true or false? And that is it.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to that yes or no, true or false answer. I always like having a high probability of success, and can't get much better than 50% there. So I might take a stab at that. Fantastic. Well,
All
that's all
right.
we have for you today. Thanks as always for joining us on Who Wrote That Up For You, and we will see you next time.
Are you feeling beleaguered, angry, or afraid, as if things are spinning out of control and you're powerless to stop them? It's easy to just let things slide and hope they don't get worse. But they often do get worse. The thing is, you're not powerless. Our courts belong to us, and their purpose is to give power to the powerless. Don't let your grievances pile up without redressing them. You can handle this in court. Or, if someone takes you to court, you can take them to school.